Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. According to recent research data from relevant media, the current population of China is approximately 1.42 billion. Compared to 2010, the urban population has increased by about 240 million, while the rural population has decreased by 160 million, resulting in an increase of 14.21 percentage points in the proportion of the urban population. Some believe that China is currently in a rapid urbanization phase, with projections indicating that it may reach or exceed 70% by 2035. However, due to unfavorable economic conditions and various factors, the average age of first marriage among Chinese people is continually rising, and many have no plans to marry at all. In contrast, the situation was quite different in ancient times, when many girls married at just 13 or 14 years old. In modern terms, this age group is still in middle school. Why did men in ancient times prefer to marry girls who had not yet fully matured? According to historians, several factors contribute to this phenomenon. First, due to the influences of healthcare, diet, and warfare, the average life expectancy in ancient times was significantly lower than it is today. During tumultuous periods like the Three Kingdoms, an ordinary person living into their 40s or 50s was considered quite long-lived. Therefore, while a 13 or 14-year-old girl may seem very young, she may have already completed a third or even half of her life journey. Based on this perspective, marrying at such an age is not fundamentally different from modern marriages occurring in one's 20s or 30s. Secondly, this practice was also influenced by the legal framework of the time. The Book of Han clearly states that if a woman between the ages of 15 and 30 did not marry, she would be subject to 5 times the tax. For ordinary families, this represented a substantial financial burden. This situation is closely tied to the broader social context. During the reign of Qin Shi Huang, the dynasty was engaged in constant warfare and undertook massive projects like the construction of the Great Wall. Historical records indicate that to build the Great Wall, Qin Shi Huang conscripted nearly 1.5 million laborers from across the nation. Initially, some laborers volunteered for monetary compensation. But as the demand for labor grew and wages and benefits could no longer be met, most were forcibly conscripted. Laborers worked in conditions akin to those of animals, with meager food supplies, working tirelessly day and night until they could rest only after sunset when visibility was low. These laborers were treated worse than livestock, with overseers often viewing them as less than human. Many perished from thirst, starvation, or exhaustion, yet no one dared to stop or flee, as resistance meant certain death. The famous folk tale of Meng Jiaqing weeping over the Great Wall is based on the tragic deaths of laborers who perished during its construction. Consequently, the population suffered significant losses. Soon after, during the late Qin dynasty, widespread warfare erupted, leading to the Chu-Han contention. From August of 206 BC to December of 202 BC, the two major factions, Xiang Yu of the Western Chu and Liu Bang of Han, fought a large-scale war for power. Ultimately, the Chu-Han struggle ended with the defeat of Xiang Yu and the establishment of the Han dynasty. However, many lives were lost, particularly among the young and able-bodied, leaving the newly established Han dynasty facing a severe demographic crisis. Even in the highly developed 21st century, population remains critically important. Countries experiencing declining birth rates are implementing various measures to encourage childbirth. This illustrates the point even more clearly. In an agricultural society, the need for a sufficient population is even more crucial. Without enough people, national defense can be compromised, and agricultural productivity will be affected. Some historical records show that during the Han dynasty, the government once conscripted elderly people, children, and women to build the Great Wall and secure the borders. However, the total number was still only around 100,000, leaving a significant labor shortage. To meet the state's demand for labor and military personnel, the emperor ordered a strong encouragement of early marriage, punishing girls who had reached marriageable age without marrying. Thus, a social norm of early marriage gradually formed. At that time, this practice was not only prevalent among the common people but also within the royal family. For the stability of the dynasty, Emperor Wen of Han married at the age of 14, and Emperor Wu of Han was not yet 16 at his wedding. Additionally, in ancient Chinese society, there was relatively low acceptance of relationships where the woman was older than the man. Most couples featured a younger woman, with men typically marrying at around 15 or 16, leaving little age difference. In the Tang dynasty, when the country's power was relatively strong and the population had increased, the government adjusted the marriage age. During the reign of Emperor Xuanzong, it was stipulated that men could marry at 15 and women at 13, after which they could decide whether or not to marry without facing penalties. This illustrates a significant correlation between the marriage age, national strength, and the level of social openness and tolerance. The third reason is the traditional emphasis on valuing boys over girls in ancient China. In an agrarian society, having an additional boy meant an extra labor force, which helped families avoid being bullied by neighbors. More farmers led to better harvests and greater wealth. In contrast, girls were confined to the household and could not demonstrate their value through labor. For parents, raising a boy promised long-term benefits, while raising a girl was viewed as purely an expense, a loss, having spent years nurturing her. Marrying girls off early to receive a dowry was seen as preferable, which led many poor families to hastily arrange marriages for their daughters, resulting in initial marriage ages below 15. Of course, there were exceptions. Not all girls married young. For example, Wu Zetian's mother married nearly at 40, as her marriage was overlooked due to the political turmoil of the times. Empress Wang, the mother of Emperor Wu of Han, and Empress Lu of the Song dynasty both married the emperor in their second marriages, and they were not particularly young. This was not a reflection of gender equality. Ancient people prioritized procreation, viewing it as a primary task. Women who remarried, especially those who had already given birth, had their fertility proven, making it less risky for the men to accept them. During the Qin dynasty, the state even encouraged widows to remarry and have children to increase the population and expand the military. After considering all this, it becomes clear why men in ancient China preferred to marry underdeveloped young girls. However, every issue has two sides. While this practice increased marriage and birth rates, it also led to tragedies, as many young girls married before their bodies had fully matured. Coupled with the lack of advanced medical technology at the time, the probability of dying during childbirth was very high. In ancient times, giving birth was akin to walking through the gates of hell, a serious matter. In modern civilized society, however, due to advancements in science and improvements in medical conditions, the likelihood of such tragedies has greatly diminished. Moreover, we now live in an era of freedom and equality, where girls can choose their partners and lifestyles according to their own wishes. We should cherish these opportunities and be grateful to the ancestors who created this reality for us. Their struggles and sacrifices have paved the way for the freedoms we enjoy today. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.